a good, this is a very good time for this. There's a lot of unhappiness, fear, anger in the world, and we all feel it sometimes. Some of us get stuck in it longer than others, and what's helped me all of my life is creativity. So that's what I want to share with you. That's why the Creativity Show. That's why I wrote my book. Many people said my stories, incandescence, coming from something my mother said to me, and Rising Above Darkness came about because just telling my stories, trying to help other people, heal myself. People said, you should write them. You could help a lot of people. And I don't mind admitting I'd like to help a lot of people. That's where my ego's at, and help the world. So my art is in the book because it's about creativity, healing us, expressing our emotions creatively, stimulating our immune systems, feeling our feelings, stimulating thoughts, and enhancing our lives with creativity. So without further ado, we're going to get right into it. I'm actually going to be painting on this piece that is a landscape
Can I
on my.
interrupt real quick, just
Sure.
momentarily? Your microphone is underneath your scarf, and it's getting a lot of that fabric
Okay.
sound. It's beautiful fabric, but
Well,
it's
let me
keeps
show.
interrupting you, and so I'm telling that
Okay.
fabric to be
We
quiet.
won't let that happen. My silk scarf with my purple iris on it, we're going to bring closer to the camera.
Yeah,
I
nice.
like I like to, even though that's, you know,
Out of focus.
Cody's in the editing room, not out here to change the focal distance from the camera, but I like to wear a stenciled outfit on every live stream to show how we can use creativity, the jewelry I make, the art to wear I make. And today I'm going to use a stencil to paint on this scroll, this Giclée fabric that was donated to me. Thank you, Lisa. And I did this painting with acrylic and watercolor and sumi ink. And today I'm going to use acrylic to add stencil um, that I'm going to do while we're trying something brand new, while Bodhi is reading from my memoir. So that's all going to happen today. Healing art while hearing my stories from Incandescence Rising Above Darkness. So, Bo, you wanna? This was Bodhi's idea, and I'm so grateful that I have a son that is supportive, uh, has ideas that help me keep going, share my hope with the world that we can rise above the darkness in our own lives and in the world, and help each other do that and help ourselves do that. So, Bo, is there anything you want to say before we get going?
Yeah, well, just that the Incandescence Rising Above Darkness Memoir and Art by Clare Cooley is celebrating its second edition publishing run. This is actually the first edition here. So if you want to get your hands on the second edition, we are now doing something novel. We are only printing full color copies of the book because of the popularity of the full color option. We decided to discontinue the black and white option and just make it simpler for everybody. So now, if you go to Amazon or any bookstore and you order Incandescence Rising Above Darkness, Memoir and Art, it will be full color, which is definitely worth doing because there is art between each story. Let's see if I can just randomly land on one. There's one. Um, and that's part of her life story is how like the name of this live stream, how to use creativity to get back to positivity no matter what happens. And so her life story is about how she used art and creativity to overcome some tremendous darkness and rise above. And so it's having it be a full color book is really fantastic.
Yes, and there's 68 pieces of art, and between the 52 stories, 3 of which have a part B, so it's really like 55 stories, but I liked 52 because there's 52 weeks in a year, and I like the symmetry of that, and 52 cards in a playing deck, and it also happens to be the year I was born, which the Chinese say is the water dragon year, which they say is the dragons are leaders, but the water dragons are the leaders for the common good. And I hope that's true. And so I really like that, all that symmetry. So 52 stories or 55 stories, part B's, 68 pieces of art, and then 40 more photographs. So the color version, which is now that in the ebook, the ways you can get it are the way to go. So thank you, Bodhi, for suggesting this idea of reading from my book while I'm doing my art. And it will be very great for me to hear him read it. I've read the whole book, and it's on the live streams audio version, and I listen to my own voice, but to listen to his will be very, very elucidating for me, I'm sure. And I suggest to all creatives, all projects we do, that someone you trust helping you see yourself and your own work is very positive and helpful.
And
So,
Joni said, I really like the title of this live stream.
thank you, Joni. I really, Bodhi came up with that one too, based on me talking about what I wanted to do. And that is why, I wrote my book, I share my art. I do it because it makes me happy. It helps me heal and enhance my life and make what I want in my life: beautiful clothes, beautiful home, beautiful art, hopefully uplifting stories. But sharing it is also deeply gratifying, because nothing better than helping other people with what's helped us. So I'm excited to do my art and hear my son read from my book.
All right, so without further ado, I'll get into it. Story time, everybody. We are reading from Incandescence Rising Above Darkness, Memoir and Art by artist Clare Cooley. And I am going to go to the introduction, and then we're going to start reading stories after that. Introduction. You saved my life. Mike's words stunned me with the realization that sharing my own story of rising above challenges had helped him rise above his. Not sure what to say, I gave him a long hug. As the tourists crowded around to take pictures of us dance skaters, I recalled the many times I had heard similar things. I am aware now that telling my story is a way to heal myself and help others. Many have suggested I write my stories to share with others because hearing them help them stay hopeful. This literary journey set my course on facing my enormous fear of exposing my deep vulnerabilities. A judge dating my friend once asked, her story could have been from a woman on death row. How did she end up so nice? Perhaps it is because I believe we are not what happens to us, but what we do with it. Once, an 8-year-old girl was secretly listening in as I read one of my personal experiences to a friend. That evening, the girl asked her mother to invite me to dinner. The girl took me on a tour of their house and, after some time, shared the story of her own assault. I was the first person she had ever told. She felt ashamed of what had happened to her and was confused because her abuser had been a friend. I told her it is confusing, but if we admit it happened, it need not have power over us, and what we get through makes us stronger. With bright confidence, she said, I knew you were the one to tell. I came to see that all it took for her to share her sad secret was hearing that I went through a similar betrayal of trust. Healing can be that simple and sweet. Whenever we tell our truth, even if just to ourselves, we can gain perspective, strength, and healing, a gift we can give ourselves and others. A woman who asked to read some stories passed them to her sister. The sister called to tell me her husband was a better person after she came home and found him in the backyard weeping after reading them. I started to understand it would be selfish not to share them and began the arduous work of writing and publishing my stories. Recalling the adversity I have overcome has been difficult, but worth it for my healing. Hopefully, I can assist others in their journeys. I'm gonna turn her mic down a little bit just so we don't hear so much of the paintbrush. But a little bit is nice. ASMR. On the way here, I have been without my own home. I have lived in a tent, a teepee, in my tiny Renault. I spent a year in an RV and even once lived alone in an abandoned building. I started my first job at 14, delivering newspapers on my bicycle. After that, excuse me.
Bless you.
Woo, woo, woo. Real professional, Bodhi.
Bless you. Sneezes happen.
Sneezes happen. I started my first job at 14 delivering newspapers on my bicycle. After that, I flipped burgers and served milkshakes as a car hop. I was a receptionist. I sewed in a factory, cleaned houses, made custom clothing, and planted trees. I made sheepskin coats, loaded ships, and then became a janitor. I waitressed, framed pictures, and managed a restaurant. I now sell my art, teach, and have become a creativity coach. My childhood was heavily influenced by my father's brutality, fueled by alcoholism, and my mother's saintly, generous spirit, hampered by her severe illness. The dynamics of my dysfunctional family resulted in no one noticing I stopped attending school regularly at 7 years old. I survived a sexual assault that made me a mother at 16. As an adult, I endured a 14-year-long divorce from my ex-husband, an attorney who had total control over all our assets. This book endeavors to share how I waded through the most difficult times and triumphed to thrive in a lovely home filled with my serene art and decor, working joyously with my movie-making son, Bodhi. I set out to transform my post-traumatic stress into post-traumatic strength and give my pain a higher purpose. It would be a great honor to encourage others to do the same and turn their adversity into their advantage. My art is inspired by a desire to contemplate natural beauty. My hope is to portray nature's splendor and mystery to help us come back into balance with our precious world. My love of cranes took me from my self-taught art to meeting all 15 species of cranes in person, and then having my art and writing published by Pomegranate Art Books in the Book of Cranes. Being asked to teach my own curriculum, Dancing into the Arts, to every grade level of the public schools at universities, drug rehabilitation centers, psychiatric hospitals, crisis shelters, juvenile halls, and with the participants of mental health and drug courts, ironically, taught me how to be a student. When we listen, feel, express honestly and respectfully, we connect and can learn and teach. I believe continuing to learn is the best way to teach, which is why I think of myself as a guide. While guiding others in multimedia creativity, I experience what I believe to be true. We are all creative. The duality of dark and light is the thread that runs through the fabric of life, which is reflected in all my art forms. I have learned from working with therapists, probation officers, lawyers, judges, nurses, and many other types of groups and individuals that the fortunate have their imaginations nurtured. A few stay connected to it, and many lose touch with it in this often critical world. As a creativity coach, it is my duty and privilege to guide people home to themselves. There, they rediscover joy, the life enhancing resources of imagination, and the creative expression, and they can heal. Through my wide variety of jobs, I have observed that everyone wants to be heard and treated respectfully. Across all walks of life, from stressed corporate executives to patients on their way to electroshock therapy, I saw the healing power of allowing people to express themselves. When the patient chose not to do shock therapy after our session and continued improving, I became committed to the work. Seeing the profound positive effect of self expression through creativity gave my life the focus to assist or inspire people to enhance their connection to their creativity. I watched a kindergartner try a new art for the first time and feel pure joy. I saw adults access that same sort of inner happiness. A doctor who began my creativity retreat with doubts and resistance said at the end, "I have not had this much fun since kindergarten." One participant realized they needed to quit their unsatisfying job to pursue their artistic passion. Helping people from all backgrounds reconnect with their creativity has shown me the immense value in simply enjoying our own imaginations. It is a deeply satisfying privilege for me to give a gift that can keep on giving. May the words and chapters that follow help you or someone you care about remain hopeful, survive, and thrive in this beautiful world with all its uncertainties and challenges. We are not what happens to us, but what we do with it. And that's the introduction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah. It is a very powerful and gratifying experience to hear you reading it. I have to say, and I feel very very fortunate that I had a mother who was classically trained, but never imposed any of her technical training. She let me be the curious artist I am that just keeps exploring new things. And she was very, very proud of me to be myself. And I feel the same about my son. And I'm very grateful that he appreciates who I am and what I'm doing. And I appreciate who he is and what he's doing. And I wish everybody in the world had that and gave that. And if you don't know who that person or people are, keep looking. They're out there, and find them and treasure them and be mutually supportive of one another. So there you go. Give to the givers.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
So let me show you where this is at before you read the next story. or the first story. So that's what I did.
Nice. It's not going to be in focus if you bring it up to the camera. So,
Okay, so I'll hold it back here, and then
yeah,
I'm gonna,
what? So I
huh?
see you've got some nice copper leaves.
Copper maple leaf there because I thought this was very monochromatic blues and greens and it needed some bright place. So now I'm going to add some gold to it while you read the first story in the book, which is only a couple pages, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, story number 1.
Unless there's something you want to say about the intro, or I'm ready to move on if you are.
Let's read the story and then I will ask some questions.
Alrighty.
Story number 1, Duality Dance. The duality dance of my life began with the monsoon rains drumming on the thin tin roof of our Quonset hut in the desert. The constant dance between light and dark, inspiration and struggle, serenity and chaos surrounded me as my individuality came into existence. The contrast between my safe mother and my dangerous father was the ever present rhythm of my early life. The ever present paradox of my mother being full of selfless purpose and my father being full of selfish pain. Her life was one of focused care, his life was one of unfocused rage. Her love tried to protect, his fear tried to control. She was a familiar ally, he was an ominous stranger. My mother was guided by the indefinable. My father could not believe in anything he could not define. She was guided by heart, he was led by mind. One was always serene, the other never rested. During the rainy season, the desert sky could change violently without warning. The stillness of the steady sun could dissolve suddenly into a torrential downpour. Flash floods following the heavy rain could wash away everything in its path. My father's discontent could wash away my mother's calm. I had to learn to dance with the duality in order not to be swept away by the paradox. I made it a pal and played with it. My mother had me, an infant, with colic, as well as 2 other toddlers. Her severe asthma and drunk husband made my constant pain and inability to eat too much to handle. My godparents took me in to give my mother a break. My godmother told me, "Everyone tried to comfort you. Anyone who came to visit would go into the room where you were whimpering, and instead of getting you to stop crying, they would come out of the room weeping. You were so tiny and inconsolable. Everyone was devastated. Then one day, the pain in your belly lifted and you could eat. From that day on, you were happy and self sufficient." Pain puts things in perspective. Hurting can be a blessing because if it lifts, everything is easier. My godmother told me all she had to do was give me something new to explore every so often, and I would be content by myself in my playpen. Eventually, I returned to my parents, but I never felt at home with my father. I never sat on his lap or went to him with a bad dream, a wound, or a tale of a bully. It was always at home. I was always at home with my mother. She was my sacred witness from whom I never needed to keep secrets. My father showed off his mind at every opportunity, and asking him for any clarification only led to more confusion. They said he was a genius, but he came up with no solutions for his own misery. His brilliance served only to brilliantly outwit himself. His cleverness caught his happiness in a trap of his own making. My mother never flaunted her intelligence. She spoke at whatever level the person she was talking to was comfortable with. My father's rage, like a monsoon, could wash away anything in its path. But somewhere, deep within me, I knew a man's softness. Perhaps it was my godfather, holding me in those first few months. My mother managed spiritual equilibrium through forgiving everyone all of the time for everything. This enraged my father, as he could not force her to join him in his bitterness and self loathing. He hated that she loved no matter what. I survived by silently observing and by dancing alone to feel some joy. I did not engage unless I sensed someone's safety was at risk. When I felt impending conflict, I would distract my father and redirect his destructive energy. I understood the damage he could do. I did not allow it to frighten or anger or cloud my judgment. From a very young age, I practiced stepping aside and letting the hostility trip itself. It was my own sort of spiritual aikido. I understood he endured greater pain than he caused others. I knew he had not invented the pain, but he had inherited it from someone else who had inherited it from someone else before them. Perhaps it was the first pain ever felt by anyone still being passed down. I saw two possibilities for pain: bear it and expand myself, or pass it on and expand the pain. Perhaps being born with colic showed me what my father never considered. We can find a place outside ourselves to absorb all the suffering. My father's life was a series of unsuccessful attempts to distract himself from his anguish. Do you need help with that lid?
Finish, and then maybe. Oh, I got it.
There we go. Speaking of overcoming obstacles, all right. He searched his whole life to find what my mother had without going anywhere. He climbed mountains, scuba dived, and raced cars, chasing the peace my mother found without doing anything but loving others. Though my mother had a fine art degree, she could not find work outside of her factory job. She never complained, resented, or abandoned us. She found strength in providing for the children she did not imagine she'd have. My father did technical writing for aircraft and satellite companies. He developed a waterproof housing for a movie camera and filmed underwater. He shot the Mayan ruins and collected ancient artifacts. He built and raced formula cars, bred tropical fish, did psychological experiments on Mundi, covered boats with aircraft fabric, and did photography. He even had a career as a painter I did not learn about until after his death. He excelled at everything he tried without much apparent effort, and it all gave him nothing but momentary pleasure. He kept moving from place to place and from endeavor to endeavor, chasing satisfaction. His insatiable wanderlust and incurable curiosity and need to escape himself kept him and us constantly moving. Other than when he passed out drunk, he was never still. The weight of his bitterness kept him from rising up to where my mother lived naturally, though he tried desperately to feel a moment of the purpose she embraced in her simple life. His doubt kept him from the faith and goodness she embodied. She was light, free from resentment, disappointment, and regret. His heart was full of dark pain. He could not comprehend the love she lived. I forgave him for being unable to trust what he could not feel. I forgave her for not seeing who he really was under what he showed her. I appreciate it all: the dark, the light, the duality dance of life. I wonder how the two people who brought me into this world could be so different. Considering the utter contrast of my parents intrigues me as the duality dance of my life whirls around me. Really lovely. Lovely way to put it. The duality dance. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
So very interesting, feel a lot of parallels with what's going on in the world. A positive woman versus a dark, fear-driven man. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I have felt all my life that the only side I want to be on is love and respect and kindness. I want to be on the planet side. I want to be on all life forms side. And that's really important to me. And the side of curiosity, openness, humility, all that good stuff. And so I really try hard not to bring religion, politics into any discussion I'm having because I don't think taking sides helps. What is the most important thing right now is that we figure out a way to get along. We're all in this together, and we're all on this precious planet that is the only place in the known universe life can exist, does exist. And I said in my last live stream, I don't think we're going to figure out all the obstacles to be able to live on Mars before it's too late if we trash this planet. So that's not really a way out. And then I heard a podcast about how little gravity and how much more radiation there is there. No atmosphere, 1% of the atmosphere Earth has. So we'd have to live underground to even live there. But the lack of gravity causes our heads to get bigger and our legs to get skinny, the people that have been out in space. And so there's too many obstacles. I don't even know if plants can germinate. I had a scientist friend many years ago who worked in plants germinating in zero gravity, and they hadn't figured it out then. I don't know if they've figured it out since then. But there's too many obstacles. In my opinion, it's hubris to think we can trash Earth and just move to Mars. No, we need to take care of this precious home and each other. So I don't want to talk about the different religious beliefs or political beliefs. I just want people to find what we all have in common. And here it is, in my humble opinion. We all want to feel safe. We all want to feel loved. We all want to feel that we have worth. And so let's focus on that instead of the differences.
Well
That
said.
was a big answer to a simple little question, but let that be enough.
Yeah, very well said. And
Can I share this? Go from heavy to light?
great idea. Good balance.
So I added some gold in there, brighten it up just a little bit. And then I'm going to add some bronze into the branch. So if you want to respond to that or read the next story, whichever you feel.
Oh yeah, no, that's great. And
timely, there are stories in my book that we'll get to, and I'm letting Bodhi make suggestions, and if I feel good about it, okay with it. It's all scary to share your own life story with the world, but I'm trying to be courageous, and I'm proud of myself for trying. So I'm willing to share the story of my father. Trigger warning here: if there's little kids around, this is not appropriate. My
when you
father
say
said,
trigger warning, you then give a brief description of the thing that you're gonna say. Like on NPR, they say trigger warning. The following is going to
okay,
have descriptions of sexual assault or discussion about sexual assault.
there you go. Thank you.
That way they
Yes.
know what they'll be
There
triggered
you
by
go.
them. Not all
Yes,
people are triggered by the same things.
there you go. So, um, yes, my father uh, set me up to be raped when I was 16, and I didn't know that for many, many years that that was his setup, that allowed that to happen, or the circumstance where that happened. And I didn't know for many years that he molested my stepsister starting when she was 7, but she shared it with me, the first person she shared it with, and I faced my father. So I do believe that facing him and telling him that she didn't want to bring charges, so I wasn't going to, that wasn't my responsibility. But if he thought about doing it to any other, I would have do my best to stop him. And he took his own life. Another trigger warning, I guess. There's suicide in this book. The night before his girlfriend was going to move in with her 4-year-old daughter. And I do believe, as the story will speak about, that he stopped himself the only way he could. And so I actually think it was a noble, courageous. I wish he could have stopped himself another way. And of course, I don't know for sure, but it is my belief, based on a number of things, that he stopped himself. And so I forgave him, and I don't have any malice in my heart, well, toward anybody. And that's for me first.
Mm-hmm.
I deserve to be at peace and only have love in my heart. So there you go. All right.
Absolutely. Yes, that's absolutely very good way of putting it. Okay, so let's move on to the next story. We got another short one.
Okay.
And let me show on this. Let me show the camera here briefly. And
The art
example,
in
we're going to
between.
show the art that starts this story. This is story number 2. And the art is there's a statement at the beginning of the book that talks about the purpose of the art, but also the fact that it doesn't necessarily have a literal connection. Each piece of art sometimes is just like walking through a gallery between each chapter. So I'll read the statement. The art between each story is meant to provide a moment of wordless meditation. Except for a few stories, the art has no literal connection to the story. I am including it because spending time in creative reverie is how I not only survived, but learned to thrive. Creative expression helped me transform my adversity into advantage. Art. Nature is the subject matter of my art because it offers us sanctuary. I hope my art gives a voice to the natural world, inspiring us to live in harmony with it, each other, and all creatures. And then the table of contents shows the story number, the story title, and then the title of the art piece. So this book is kind of like walking through a gallery. It's really a fantastic experience. Unlike
Thank you.
any other books.
Thank you.
Yep. Story number 2, Seed Settles on Sacred Soil. Seeds are designed to survive severe cold, extreme heat, drought, and infertile lands until finally the conditions are right to germinate. Some cross oceans or are blown thousands of miles. Some are eaten by animals. Some lie dormant for years until the time is just right to bloom. Eventually, the fortunate seeds land on fertile soil and become magnificently what they were meant to be. My mother knew it was necessary for me to stay in the sturdy shape until the time was right for me to blossom safely. My mother understood my tender shoots were too vulnerable and petals too sensitive for this place. We knew there would be a time for me to flower But until then, we accepted I had to stay contained in the protection of the seed shape, content to survive, waiting for the time to thrive. The winds of chance cast my seed into the gale force of my father's destructive discontent. Staying in the calm eye of the storm of his rage required me to develop an ability to sense the subtle warnings of the violent turbulence brewing. Watching for the smallest changes of the brutal forces around me became a constant vigil. Staying precisely within the serenity of the very middle of the hurricane within my seed shield was required. This demanded alertness and agility to be ready to move quickly as the winds shifted. Staying silent to hear early warnings was my discipline. Observing the slightest changes in the environment, my practice, and trusting my instincts, my way. Occasionally, a kind visitor would come to see my mother when my siblings and father were not there, and only then would my mother say, "They are very nice, dear. Would you do your seed dance?" My mother wanted me to know there were some people who were gentle and among whom I could be safe. I would give my mother a small nod and then go into the other room. My mother would ask the guest to sit on the couch. When they were settled, I would come into the room and walk to the center. Sitting on my feet, I would fold the top of my body over the bottom, then tuck my head and curl my arms along my sides, putting my hands under my feet. After lying motionless in the seed shape for several minutes, I would begin to rise almost imperceptibly. First, my little arms, then torso, then legs would unfold like a sprout reaching for the light. Finally, when my whole body was upright, my arms would reach above my head. My small face would turn toward the sky. I would separate my arms as a flower in full bloom. Without any sound or movement, I would remain there for a few minutes. Then I would bow toward the guest and leave the room silently. The visitors would be too stunned to utter a sound or applaud before I left the room. But this was as it should be. It was perfect because my seed dance was a gift, not a performance. When the dance was done, the gift had been given. Nothing more needed to happen, and everyone felt complete. That's an example of one of the shorter ones. And I think what's really interesting about that is you did two totally different things in one little short story there. You talked about the hyper vigilance of a very stressful upbringing, childhood, the makings of a traumatic situation, really tough stuff. Any child being constantly vigilant for the changes of their volatile father's emotions and older siblings. But then you also talk about this beautiful artistic gift and experience, and we go into the dance and we feel it. What an interesting balance.
Well, thank you. That's a nice perception to hear, and it's always good as artists, as creatives, to get the reflection back from someone else. So I really appreciate that. And yes, life is the balance of the dark and light, the difficult, the easy, the joyous, the frightening. So um, I do, try to let everything be felt and acknowledged, but I do try to go expeditiously through the difficult stuff and luxuriate in the lovely stuff, but feel it all. Every feeling has a constructive purpose. And, you know, but we don't have to stay angry, stay outraged. Let it be a way to initiate action instead of smoldering, as I put up a post recently, until, we burn out our kindness if we just stay angry. Let it initiate action to change the injustice.
Right.
So
So Joni said, I agree. I truly hope people can come together and make the world a better place for everyone.
thank you. Thank you. That is, it is something we can do, and each one of us can do our part. We don't have to be billionaires or politicians to do that. We can do it, or everyone can choose to do that and do it in their own way and in their own circle of influence. So may we not give up that right, that power to make the world a kinder place.
Agreed.
So, do you want to read one more, or are we at time? What?
It's up to you. It is 12:54.
The next one is it short?
Yes. So let's read the next one.
Okay.
So the art before the next one is called Mist and Mountain. And if you're interested in prints of any of these art, you can reach out to us, or you can go to clarecooley.com. And you can purchase the art through her web store. Story number 3. Sleeper wave woke me up. There is a wave that comes without warning, from behind, silently, without announcing its awesome force. The rogue wave knocked me down and carried me out to sea. They call it a sleeper wave, but it was really the wave that woke me up. One moment I was tickling the spiky underside of a starfish. The next, I was under a wall of turquoise. The surging waves tossed me like a button into a wild child's bathtub. Not being able to tell which way was up, I did not struggle or try to get there. The light came from everywhere. As it swirled around me, I was mesmerized. I did not think about breathing as I was surrendered to the ocean. There was a strange comfort in being part of such immensity. I was not afraid. Acceptance made me buoyant, and I floated up toward the sky. Not fighting allowed the current to take me out into the sea before flowing parallel to the beach. Floating on my back with my tiny face at the surface, I took in air between wave surges, splashing on my face. I had not been this far out before, but instead of fearing the distance from land, I felt a sense of freedom. Trusting the sea did not want to keep me forever, I relaxed and rose and fell with the waves like a seal playing in the surf. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Okay. I see Michael B there, and we will get to your comment after this short story. I took in air between wave surge splashing on my face. I had not been this far out before, but instead of fearing the distance from land, I felt a sense of freedom. Trusting the sea did not want to keep me forever, I relaxed and rose and fell with the waves like a seal playing in the surf. My family and the other people on the beach were running back and forth looking for me. Some were screaming. Everybody except for my mother panicked. The fear of finding my limp body washed up lifeless and cold had overtaken most of them. Only my mother stayed calm as she kept repeating a chant softly toward the endless blue. Please bring my daughter back to me. Please bring my daughter back to me. She understood that even if she could swim, the ocean was in charge. Only the sea could save me. The other people were frantically running in and out of the waves, yelling as my mother knelt in the sand and kept whispering her plea. Years later, she told me so much time had passed that they were certain I was gone. When they found me, washed up on the shore like a tiny beached creature, I did not understand why she kept saying, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." As she told the story of the day I was washed out to sea and washed back onto the beach unshaken, she said, laughing, "You only cried when we would not let you go back in the water." She also told me, "You did not learn to swim, you just swam." And indeed, I don't remember ever not feeling at home in the water. I do remember the seal dance I did on hot days in the backyard sprinkler wearing my cousin's hand-me-down black leotard. All this came back to me vividly when my niece said, "You look like a selkie." Looking at photos a photographer had taken of me, I said, "What is a selkie?" She explained the selkies are the dark Irish women who are really seals. They can come ashore and shed their skin to become human. If a man finds her seal skin, he then owns the selkie unless she finds where her skin is hidden. Then she takes her sealskin and returns to the sea. Perhaps what happened after 16 years with my son's father was I came across where he tried to hide my true nature from me. For years, I have been saying I felt he treated me like he owned me. So when I found my sealskin, I seized my freedom to explore the unknown depths of the seas of my own life, and my heart swam away. Lovely. And Michael said, I wanted to tag on to what you have been saying. Think of each of us as a drop into a bucket of water, and our ripples move outward, an energy of kindness touching all in its wake, like you, Claire. Your live stream creates a ripple of goodness, and that spreads across the world in this internet world.
I got chills all the top of my head. Thank you, Michael. That was very, very kind and lovely and beautifully said. Thank you. And I needed to hear that. I am human, and I have doubt, and I have trouble, just like every human does at times. And the day after the election, I put up, we're all in this together. We can disagree respectfully. And I got a lot of love and a lot of appreciation for saying it, but I also, as Bodhi can testify, or you, I took that post down because so many people were taking their anger out on me, assuming that if I wasn't outraged, angry, and full of hate, I must have voted for a convicted rapist, which I guess adjudicated rapist, who
judge
we've all
jury have found that he raped someone. That's
anyhow. So no, I don't want to talk politics. I just want to say I stand up to bullies. I don't comply. And I was hurt by a lot of the things people said, but they didn't know me. So I let it flow off me, but I did erase that because there was so much unkind stuff. And there's been a number of unkind things said since then by people. Well, they're just, I want everyone to feel like I do when I'm feeling good and loving and kind and hopeful. I want other people to feel that. And when people are angry, they want other people to feel angry or full of hate. And so they tried to get me to join that, and I refused. And so it's been tough. So I appreciate hearing the sweet stuff. I really, really do. And may we all find some peace and share that. because what else can help the world? Not just being angry. Let anger initiate action to create justice. Don't let it smolder till it burns your kindness out. And be nice, people. Be nice. That I've run across a bunch of dangerous people in my life, and kindness saved my life a number of times. And some of those stories are in this book, and some of them will be in the next book. But being disrespectful never makes you safer. Being strong, that's different. Be strong. Be strong in your kindness. Show no fear if there's danger there. But disrespecting people makes you a target. So let's all be safe. Let's all share safety, kindness.
And Michael said, as you say in your book, we will rise above the darkness.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. There you go. That's why it's the title. And incandescence came from my mother, who was correspondence challenged like I am. My letters are never good enough to send, I feel like. And so she sent me just a couple things in my whole life. And one of them was, did you know you have inner incandescence, dear? So a friend suggested that that be the title. And so it is. And so thank you, everybody, for being here and for telling a friend or somebody that could use some creative, positive energy. And let's end by saying thank you, Bodhi. I really, really appreciate you having this idea and reading my stories. And here's the
Beautiful.
There you go.
Perfect. Yep. Thank you, everybody. And if you have already read the book, please check out Amazon and Goodreads and any other place like Google Reviews and leave a review. It really helps us spread the word about the book. And like I said, her book is now celebrating its second edition. So there's new cover art and some updates to the interior, some updates to the interior photographs at the end. So check that out. If you haven't gotten the book yet, it's Incandescence, Rising Above Darkness, Memoir and Art. You can just search the internet for Clare Cooley, and then the book will be there, or Clare Cooley Incandescence, and it'll take you right there. And because of the popularity of the color version, we've discontinued the black and white. And by popular demand, now it makes it easier for everyone to get the one they want. So it's a color book. And yeah. Also,
and tell them about
Patreon.
this
Patreon.com/Clare Cooley.
The stencils are, I have 18 flowers for no extra price for the Patreon members, and or you can get any one of them if you're not a Patreon member, which you can also join for free. And thank you, Bodhi, for helping me with all the technology required to turn my 300 stencil designs are going to keep turning into SVGs, and you can download and use them any way you want. You saw Joni's cake there using one of my stencil designs. She put a rose on her guitar case, so you get to use them any way you want, which is why I did the 300 stencils, to help encourage you to use your creativity.
And Sue Spencer on Facebook said, sending love and light. Yes, be nice, and great to hear your positive words.
Thank you, Sue. Really appreciate that. Love you. Love you, Joni and Michael. Love y'all. And thank you so much. Love you, Bodhi. And I really appreciate your help and encouragement. It really helps me keep going. We all need help.
Let's stick together and let's keep helping each other stay positive, and thanks for sharing your positivity with the world. I know it takes courage, and we appreciate it.
Thank you. You're welcome, and thanks to all y'all.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.